All right, guys. So today's we're going to cover chapters 24 through 26. So without further ado, welcome to Goodish Girls. I'm Dallas.
And I'm Kass.
Welcome back.
Hi.
This face is not Alyssa's face.
No,
It's
it's
Kass's
not.
face. She's back. Bop, bop.
Hello,
Making an
hello.
appearance. Welcome.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll be back a little bit more here and there.
Yes.
For everybody who doesn't know, I'm pregnant. I'm almost 20 weeks with a boy. So pregnancy's been rough. I've been taking lots of breaks and lost all motivation for things. So living that life.
You know, you can
But
lose motivation to things because you're literally building a human.
yeah.
So you are forgiven.
So yeah. But yeah, I'm glad to be
Yay.
back.
She's back. And it was hard to keep that secret when I was like, Kass isn't here right now. She's busy.
Yeah.
She's busy. She's not
She's
around.
busy sleeping and
She's
building a
building
baby.
arms and
Yeah.
legs. You probably built a
Yeah.
kidney or two this week.
I think this week I'm also building hair, which is why the heartburn has been
Yeah,
horrible.
the heartburn. That's
So,
what they say.
yeah, I guess.
Yay. I love it. Congratulations. I'm so excited.
Thanks.
But she's feeling good today. So we're going to
Mhm.
record today and talk about some things. We got some catching up to do.
Yeah.
She's been with our episodes, though. She's been writing the episodes, doing the thing. So I feel like you're pretty up to date on
I am.
like
And
what's been going on.
It's like the chapters that I'm back for today are some of my favorites. So it's like where
They
I
got
really
some good
started
stuff
getting
packed in there.
Yeah. So
I agree.
it'll be
Before we
good.
do get started, though, I do want to talk about the new covers that were released like the preview of the covers that were released this week. Did you see them?
I did see them.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I am so obsessed with them.
You
I
like the
can't wait.
darker, like all put together covers though. I feel like we
Yes, I
differ
do.
on that. Yeah, I like the like bright in your face random covers that don't always match.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
So,
Yeah, I like the ones that like match, but and also there are some I think there's some Easter eggs in here. I know you saw the TikTok that I posted, but like if you are looking at the covers themselves, obviously you're looking at the Quicksilver one, right? That comes out on August 19th of this year. It's very cute. It has like a little snowflake. It has some character art in there, which I think is really, really pretty and really well done. And it also, if you look at the post that Callie Hart made, it says in there that there's going to be, it says all editions of Quicksilver will feature an exclusive bonus chapter from Callie Hart. Now, my question is this a bonus chapter that we've already read online on her website?
right.
Or Kass, are we getting a new bonus chapter that we've never read before?
I don't know. I don't know
hope it's a
why
new
she
one.
would
I don't care
I
either
don't know
way,
why
but
she would put just one of the few bonus chapters she's written.
that's what I'm
'Cause she
saying.
has the
I
few,
wonder if it's a
so
new one.
yeah, I feel like it might be.
That's what I'm hoping for.
I
Like
feel like
new
if she
art,
was
new
going
cover,
to,
new bonus chapter, all the things, right?
yeah.
And then if you look at Brimstone, that comes out on November 18th, which is a good luck sign because that's my son's birthday. So I'm just saying. It's not relevant to anyone else in the world but me, but
But
I'm
you.
going to take it as a good luck charm. Yes.
Maybe there's a
If you
character
look at
named
that one,
Ace, you know?
oh my gosh, how cute would that be? I would love that. If you're looking at the Brimstone version of it, there's a couple of Easter eggs in there, right? So we have Carrie and Swift in there leaning against a tree, and we have Onyx there. So those two pictures, there's no pictures of Ceres right now. There's no pictures of Kingfisher. I think this is going to be very Carrion forward and very Onyx forward, because we do know that in this journey in this second book, Carrion and Kingfisher go back through the silver to go get Hayden and whatever else adventures they're going to go on. So I really think we're going to get I hope we're going to get some Carrion POVs. I know for sure we're going to get some Kingfisher POVs because she dropped a little spoiler in her stories the other day of a preview of chapter 1 of Brimstone, or a chapter of Brimstone. And it said Kingfisher POV in the front.
Okay.
So, and Onyx
That'd be
is
nice.
literally on the cover of this book.
What if there's an
Like
Onyx POV?
there should be, because that fox is more than just a fox. So
He
I
starts
need Onyx's
talking.
thoughts here. I need to know what the fox is thinking. I'm sure it's very sarcastic thoughts. Probably lots of eye rolls
Probably.
watching all the things. So I just wanted to talk about that because I'm very excited about it, and I
Mm-hmm.
want 10 copies of each. But yeah, they're gonna have it's a hidden cover case foil, character art end papers, metallic gilded edges. It's gonna be beautiful.
Are
And
you
I
gonna
can't wait.
bedazzle one?
I'd have to buy 2. If I buy 2, then I can bedazzle one. But one of them needs to stay in perfect condition.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then I might, but I think they're good bedazzle material. Like it's set up to be bedazzled well,
Yeah.
for sure. Oh, I can't wait. All right, let's jump into it. So last week we ended on chapter 23. We're going to jump in straight to chapter 24, the Lupo Proelia. So Ren and Lorreth are chatting with Ceres about the pieces of metal being stuck in the wall, basically the rock wall that can't be pulled out, because in the last chapters, Danya was super pissed. She was running at Kingfisher. Ceres yells stop. She hits her hip on a table, and then the sword shatters and goes into the wall. In this moment, though, when they're setting this scene, Ceres notices that the guys are pretty beat up, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're like, he's like in a bad mood. She was like, "What happened to you guys?" And she's like, "Oh, Kingfisher's in a bad mood." Uh, and then they're in like this. They were in this argument basically, so
Mm-hmm.
they're not looking too great. So the pieces of the sword are in the wall.
Mm-hmm.
She offers to cut the pieces out. She's like, "Hey, can I cut these out and create a new sword?" And Ren's like, "Hey, it's not that simple." He does explain that the sword is an old Fae heirloom, and it's her God-given right to her, right to Danya. It's forged for old Fae masters with precious magic, and it shows her actual presence in the Lupo Prelia. We
Mm-hmm.
know that the Lupo Prelia is essentially the wolf pack that Fisher is a part of, and he leads essentially. And those warriors have been together for a very long time, and it's a very big deal to be a part of that pack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this part, the first time I read it, made me laugh because I hate Danya so much. And so as soon as Ren was like, actually, it's like a family heirloom that was given like just to her with like fancy magic in it. I was like, she deserved that. She truly deserved that. It makes me laugh every
No.
time. Yes, it makes me laugh so much.
Ooh.
Anyways.
This is where we are, and I know you listened. I think you listened to the last episode. So in the last episode,
Mhm.
we were Alyssa and I were like rating Danya. She was like,
Mhm.
"I'll give her like it was above a 5 or whatever." And I was like, "Guess is an 11 for sure." Like, how much do you hate Danya? 11
Yeah.
for Cass,
Yeah.
and I gave her a 5, and I gave her
I
a
can't
5
stand her.
for I know, for a couple of different reasons. Here's my reasons, okay? So this woman has been a warrior, right? She's a
Mhm.
Fae warrior. She has been with this wolf pack for hundreds of years.
Mhm.
She is currently the only woman in the wolf pack. She was not always the only woman in the wolf pack. If you've read the bonus POV, like the bonus chapters, you'll know that there was another woman in the pack who's no longer there.
Mhm.
So she is the only woman there, which I think says a lot. And I know that like I personally have worked in like a male dominated work industry in my life before. And so I feel like it was maybe harder for her to prove herself. It doesn't say that in the book. I just like to resonate with her in that way. So maybe she
Yeah.
had to hold herself to a different standard, or I also, and they do see her as family, right? She sees them as
Mhm.
family. So can you imagine you have a really, really important family member who has been gone for well over 100 years, comes
Mhm.
back, shows up multiple times, says nothing to you, right? And then all of a sudden you're like in this meeting and this little human chick shows up and you're like, who are you? What is happening, right? She
She
destroys her sword.
she's
She's like,
also a little racist though. In that way. Oh, or what
what?
I guess it wouldn't be race. Well, I guess it would be race, right? Like humans, fae. That's a race, right?
Mm,
What would you call that?
maybe
Prejudice?
prejudice?
Either
Ooh, I
way,
don't know. Maybe
She
we
shows it multiple times throughout against Saris.
Well, she's like,
And
it's
it
well, she because
drives
she
me
references her
nuts.
like a human, right? Which I get.
Yeah,
And I think that would be like referencing like a low Fae, like versus like a high
well, yeah,
Fae,
because she's a
like this
very
low
high
Fae.
Fae who has all this stuff given to her, who thinks she's like the best of the best. Which I get, she did earn that spot,
Hmm.
but also I think some of that comes from her just being high Fae and the way
I
she
mean,
treats
and
others.
you may
Because
be
there's
right.
other high Fae and they don't treat others that way. Also, Ren and Kingfisher and
Lorreth,
thank you, my pregnancy brain's gonna kick in.
I
I was
got
like,
you.
I can think of him. All of them are defending her like the whole book, and she still just won't let up.
Well,
So,
and so I think this is like a big reference of how important Danya is to the Lupercalia and to the pack. And that I think they do see her. I think they see each other as siblings. Or like I think they do see her as a sister, and I think she
mhm,
sees Kingfisher as a brother, who is someone who is really important to her. And I feel like she does feel super abandoned and super left behind and left out and unimportant. And I think that I can understand how that is frustrating. Again, I'm not saying like what she did was the right move, uh, but I do get
I
her anger. And
I
then
just
all of a sudden
want
there's
to,
like this girl here and you're like,
yeah,
who are you? Like you
I
have zero importance to anything in this. She does have importance, but I can see why Daniel would not understand that in the beginning.
I just want to know why hers is so, like, her feelings about it are so big compared to the rest of them.
So Ren is super loyal to Kingfisher. Obviously
Right.
Danny is as well, but I think Ren is naturally a very forgiving soul.
Yeah.
Like Renvis is just like, it's cool. I'm gonna go with it, right? Like I think of it like me and my husband, right? Like my husband's like, it's cool, I'm over it. Like it's cool, let's just go with it. And I'm like level 100 all the time, like the world is burning down, everything's ending. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, right? And he's like, no, it's fine, like we're good, right? And I'm like, no, it's awful. So I think
Right.
that maybe just that's just part of her personality as well. Like I think she probably gives 110% to everything she does,
Yeah.
right? And then Lorreth was saved by Kingfisher,
That's
right?
true.
So he's like
Yeah.
Kingfisher can do no wrong in Lorreth's eyes,
Right.
right? Like he saved him, he gave him a literal piece of his soul. Kingfisher can do what he wants, right? And it's
Right.
no big deal. But I think Danya is not necessarily more realistic, but maybe more realistic, right? She's like, "Where have you been? Like, you came back, you didn't say anything." I just think that if I was in that situation, I would probably be almost just as mad as Danya. I'd be like, "You came back, you didn't say anything, you didn't say I'm sorry, like, you didn't, where have you been?" Right? And then also, she doesn't know this new Kingfisher. The Kingfisher
Right.
with all the Quicksilver, the Kingfisher that's been gone for over 100 years, she doesn't know that person like Ren does, right? Ren's like, this isn't him, like this isn't usually who he usually is. So now Danya is not only like seeing him for the first time with a new person that maybe or maybe not as important to her. But now she's like, I don't even like she doesn't even know you anymore.
Right.
Like I said, I'm not
Me
saying what she did was correct, but also I just get her anger. I think she's very hurt and I think she expressed it in the wrong way.
I feel like if she was introduced at a different point in the book, maybe I wouldn't dislike her as
Mhm.
much. Because at this point, right, you know a lot about Kingfisher, you know a lot about Saris, you know
Mhm.
a lot about the characters you've been reading about. So you
Yeah.
understand a lot, even though you don't know everything yet. And then she comes in and you're like, bro,
Yeah,
what
you're
is your
automatically
deal?
protective of them.
What is your deal? Yeah.
Mhm. Right,
So,
because 'cause we've been along for the whole ride,
right.
right? Like, we're 24 chapters in, and
Yeah.
she's just now showing up and being like,
Yeah.
"WTF?"
Yeah.
Which is fair, like, from the reader's perspective, yeah, I think she was designed for us to be like, n sit down, ma'am.
Right. Right.
Like, you don't need to speak here." But then, like, can you imagine, like, even later on in the chapters, right, like, when they're at dinner and Sarah sits on the in the right-hand side, which is, like, the wildest seat
Yes.
to sit in, right? But no one's gonna tell Saris poor
Right.
girl. Like, and then Danya sits down and she's like, are you fucking kidding me? What is happening? Can you imagine, like, this new human girl, Danya hasn't been with them at all for these chapters and this journey that's going on. And now all of a sudden, new human girl is like sitting in the queen's seat and she's like, this is the upside down. I can't handle this. I think Danya's sensory is just overloading.
That's fair.
But like, can you imagine? And I feel like from Danya's perspective, and this is not written, this is just me guessing. Like, if I was Danya, I would assume that they probably told Saris what that seat is. And she decided to sit there anyways. That's what I would assume.
No, because it's not till after that, remember?
Correct. No, they did not tell her.
Yeah, she makes a big deal about it, and then Kingfisher comes up behind her, puts his hands on her shoulders, and is like, she can sit here. This is her seat.
But and that's what I'm saying. Like, if you were Danya,
Ren after that.
Correct. But from Danya's POV, imagine you're sitting down, you're at a table with four people, she's sitting there. I'm going to assume that these logical Fae told her what that seat meant. They didn't, assholes. But from Danya's point of view, like, she's probably like, oh my God.
Kingfisher's you guys not told her. Tell her. He's like, this is very amusing. Keep sitting there.
Nobody told her. But do you think Danya knew that nobody told Saris?
Probably not.
Or do you think she was like, oh my God, you know that the seat is, and it's very important, and you're sitting in it. Like, what? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Danya is excused for her actions. What I would like, though, is Danya to receive a smidge of grace for her emotions. I think some of them are somewhat valid. That's my TED Talk.
That's fair.
I had this all ready for Alissa, too.
Only because you're saying it will I say okay.
Okay. You don't have to like her. It's okay. Maybe she'll get a redemption arc in book 2. I think she will.
I think
it's okay if you don't like her.
She's like a Tamlin to me.
Really?
She's not as bad as Tamlin, but I'm like,
interesting.
I don't care if I see a redemption arc for her. She's just a character I don't care about.
Genuinely thought you were gonna be like, she's just like Nesta, which I know you hate Nesta.
She is, but Nesta's also there where I'm like, I don't approve of your redemption arc that they gave you through the book.
Take those quotations away. Take them back. Take them back. I will go to war.
It is true, though.
I went to a party last night, and I was dressed as Nesta.
I know.
That's how much I love her. I will die for her. So anyways, this sword, it's stuck in the wall. Okay.
Yes.
It's not coming out. We can't file it down. We can't just like take the pieces about it. And everything's kind of a mess, right? So we know obviously Danya's super upset. She's very dramatic. And she thinks that Saris's response are pretty ironic and kind of rude. But I think that's Saris's coping mechanism. Like being a little sarcastic, right?
Yeah.
I think she's like, oh no, what do I do, right? Like, obviously Saris didn't mean to break the sword. She had no idea what was happening. Like, she didn't know that she had that power, right? She saw her mate, which again she didn't know, in danger. Her words took over, her body took over, and then her magic took over. So that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. So anyways, they got to get the sword out, and so there is a quote that you wanted to say in here, which I know you wrote in here. And I was like, I'll make sure that somebody's going to say the line. But if you would like to say the line, since you're here, you can.
It's the way it's recorded, like with the different voices. It makes me laugh so much. So Ren goes through. Obviously, he fully explains that history shows alchemists can only forge Quicksilver blades if it contains more than 5% of Quicksilver. So he's like trying to tell Saris why this is like so important and why she is really important and how like rare she is to fix this sword. And he also mentions that what Cerys did to the sword, there's no record of history of that happening before. So he's like,
Mm-hmm.
you literally have to fix it. It's literally important for you. And Cerys is kind of just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. And so Danya says if she can't figure out how to wipe her own, and before she can finish, Ren cuts her off and says, Danya, I swear on the seven gods, if you don't shut up, I will toss you out of here myself. And it's like the first time he like turns on a dad voice and is
Mm-hmm.
essentially like, shut the fuck up. And then she cries like a little bitch because Ren yelled at her.
Yes. I would also cry if Ren yelled at me, to be fair.
But it's funny.
Like, Daddy, I'm sorry.
But it's so good. She's just like, she's going off and going off and going off. Like, as they're trying to explain this to her, and Sarah's just like, I can't do it. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what's going on.
I don't have
And
any
she just
help.
gets so mad, and then Ren is like, shut it down. Shut up. I'm done.
Yeah.
And it
Agreed that
makes me
Ren should
laugh
have shut it
every
down.
time. It makes me laugh.
It is a
But it's
funny
just,
line. Ren
it's,
can do no wrong. She did
yeah.
need to tone it down. I get it.
It's the way it's recorded, too. I think it's
Yes,
just
if you have not listened to
perfectly.
the book, you should go listen to it because it's amazing. But make sure you hear that specific line because it's iconic.
Yeah.
Danya,
Yeah.
if you don't shut up,
But then she keeps going anyways. So after she cries for
she
a little bit.
yeah. I mean, and again, they're her family. Like she's known them for a really long time. She's very comfortable with them. She's a
Yeah.
very high strung personality. So I'm not saying she did right, but either way. And Ren's like, girl, shut up. Like
Yeah.
you're fine, right?
Well, and he also
And
ends
so,
up having to explain to her
mm-hmm.
that like
Yeah,
they
like they have a
literally
year.
need her. Right. If they don't figure it
Mm-hmm.
out in a year, Malcolm's gonna win. Everybody's gonna die. So
Yeah, they
they
have 12
literally need
months.
Cerys to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. But you know what would have probably helped that? If someone in the beginning would have been like, hey, girl, we have an alchemist. Her name is Ceres. This is her. Let's introduce you. Like, what?
But did she give them a chance? Doesn't she just storm him once he comes in?
Kingfisher's been there for weeks.
No.
Ren has been back and forth to the camp a couple times as well.
Right.
Has he
But
not?
Cerys has never seen her until right now. Right.
Correct.
So
But
then
like
she
knowing
storms
Danya.
him. Yeah. She storms him though. And then Cerys, this is her first time seeing it, which is why she reacts that way. So it
Because
was
her
like,
sword, blew up into a million
yeah.
pieces. Before that, she didn't care about Ceres. But like, can you imagine
Right.
if Ren was like, hey, Danya, just so you know, we have an alchemist. Her name is Ceres. Eventually, she'll show up here. She's very important. I don't know. The miscommunication tropes
That would
like
cause
sometimes frustrate me
yeah.
so bad.
Well, they are all men.
Yes, they are.
So
Kills me. Like, you should have just told her. And I know that and someone's like, there wouldn't be a book. There could be a book. Daniel could have been a nice lady.
maybe I
What?
wouldn't hate her.
Maybe you wouldn't have hated her. You never know.
You never
So
know.
the Quicksilver in the blade in the wall
Mhm.
starts talking to her, and so she's figuring out that she can actually communicate it to it,
Mhm.
right? And so she's like trying to figure it out, trying to speak to it, and like figure out basically what it wants, right? Because sometimes
Right.
it can talk to her, but it hasn't really said too much. During this point, Ceres is obviously like super upset. She's really stressed out because she can't figure out what to do. She can't fix
Mhm.
it. And Ren informs everybody that they have about a year or so, like just a year to win this war because Belicon isn't sending supplies. The soldiers are hungry. Like they won't have enough people, weapons, or anything by the time there's another year, which is why Ceres herself is so important.
Mhm.
During this time, though, we do note that Ceres hears a very faint sound of the Quicksilver coming from the sword. And then we do learn that a lot of Quicksilver was, or at least a little bit of Quicksilver was infused with other metals, which makes sense to Ceres of why Madra took a lot of the metal back home in Zelvara and why there's really not a lot of accessibility to it because she knew that it had Quicksilver in it,
Mhm.
which was interesting.
Yeah. They also mentioned that, well, if you think about it, right, she had those few times that she controlled either like a little knife or something back home.
Mm-hmm.
So it obviously was still circulating, but like how much Quicksilver in comparison to what she's working with now? Because Ren says historically alchemists should only be able to forge Quicksilver into blades if or know that it's there if they had more than 5% of Quicksilver in it. But
Mm-hmm.
we know that that's not true for her. So like how much
Right, because she can control like very, very small amounts of Quicksilver.
right. So how much were in those few that were passing around? Was it more than 5% or was it less than
Mm-hmm.
5%? And that's why maybe Madra didn't
That's a good,
grab those.
yeah, that's a good question, right? If and then my other question is like, can Madra detect that kind of stuff, or was she just
Right,
guessing and assuming that it all had it in there,
right. If it
right?
was silver, maybe she took it, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know.
So that's a good thought. I would part of me wants a more detailed description of like Madra and maybe like
Hmm.
a chapter of Madra or so to get some answers on that, like how she got through the Quicksilver, what kind of relics does she have, how did she get
Right.
the relics? So I have some questions on Madra for sure.
Yeah, I feel like we don't learn a lot about her.
Mm-mm. No, we don't. She's there for like a little bit and then she's kind of a big deal and then she's kind of gone until the obviously the end of the book where she kind of shows up again, right?
Right.
So Danya leaves the war room. That the Danya show is over. Kingfisher also bails, like, and Sirius is like, "Where's Kingfisher? Like, where did he go?" Lorreth informs her that Kingfisher went to go see Telena, the gorgeous healer with the amber eyes, right? And so this is where Sirius is like feeling real jealous, right? She's felt it
Hmm.
a little bit before when she's heard Talena's name, but this is where she's like in her own head. She's like, "Oh my god, are they dating? Do they have history? Like, why does he keep going to
Well,
see her?"
it's because it's twice in 1 week.
Yeah, which I would also be like, "Hello, where are you going?" And then so she's like, "I need a drink," right? Like
Yeah.
I just need to chill out. So Lorreth takes her to a little tavern.
Hmm.
She has like 5 drinks. Girl is drunk, right?
Hmm.
And she says that Kingfisher is lying to her, but Lorreth is like, he's not. He literally can't. He's an oath-bound Fae. He cannot lie.
Right.
And so he explains that at 21, which is when we know that if that a Fae it reaches maturity, right? They grow really fast, like 21 years old, like they're full grown.
Hmm.
They bleed on a stone to choose truth, or if you don't choose truth, you lose your honor, right? So you can choose to not be an oath-bound Fae. You can choose to be a liar, but you won't have any honor among you.
Right.
And she's like, I really don't believe that. And and he's like, what do you mean? She's like, well, that's what a liar would say is that they don't lie, which is fair. Like, I don't know. She just has to take their word for it,
Right.
you know? And so the question I think arouses like, was it you that asked or was it Alyssa that asked? Someone asked like the Fae lie, like Fae can't lie trope. Like, where did it originate
I
from?
think that's Alyssa because I feel
Okay.
it's in all the books, so I'm just like, ah, yes, can't lie.
Okay. This in our notes there it says like, where did this originate from? Well, guess what? I have an answer for you. I looked it up. I did some research. So I do think this is kind of a thing across the board, right? In a lot of fantasy books, but
Hmm.
in this story specifically, they choose on they get to choose whether or not they're going to be a liar. They
Right.
take an oath, and if they break it, then they have no honor, which means a lot to them. And also, could you imagine if people were the same way? If like when you reach 21 years old, you were like, "Hey, take your oath, be honest, or live your life as a liar." I think our world would look a lot different.
Oh yeah,
Wouldn't that be crazy?
that it would be a lot different. Yes,
I'm here
but
for it. So again, the very little bit of research that I did, I found a website, Writing in the Margins,
hmm.
and they do talk about how modern day Fae writing really sets in the notion that Fae cannot lie, like physically cannot. But in older times, and even back to like the 12th century, there was a Welsh tale that proposed that they don't even take an oath because they don't need to. They just choose to lie because they know it's so bad. Like they don't need an oath. They don't need like a promise. They just are like, we don't do that. There's also a British folklorist, Catherine Briggs, who recounted that according to Elidurus, the fairies were great lovers and respecters of truth, and indeed it is not wise to attempt to deceive them, nor will they ever tell a direct lie or break a direct promise. Though they may often distort it, the devil himself is more apt to prevaricate than to lie, which again goes back to like the modern day fae and the fae that we read about, right? Where they can't lie, but they will like dance around the truth. They will make a very specific bargain with you that you may or may not understand what you're actually agreeing to.
Right.
So I think that's really, I do think it's very interesting how far the folklore for it goes back. So in case you
Well,
wanted to know.
well, now we know.
Now you know.
Alissa
You're welcome.
can know now that you
And
did
she's
the
listen to this
research
and be
on
like,
it.
oh my gosh, look at this research.
That's where it is. Yeah, I feel like in my head I'm just always like, yeah, they don't lie.
They don't
That's
lie.
just
Same,
a
right?
Fae trait in my head.
And I agree. Like it's very rare. I think we read a book where the Fae can lie, but also you have like the big one, right? You have Akatar where the Fae can lie, right? Fae
Yeah.
was like, the Fae cannot lie, and then they're like, no, bro, that's just what we told you guys. We can totally lie to you.
But in Lightlark, Oro and his people cannot lie, but the rest of the Fae can. So it like depends what kind of Fae you are.
Right.
So I feel like each one's different.
Yeah.
But I feel like it
I mean,
shows
the
up a
author gets
lot.
to choose, right?
Yeah, but it does show up a lot.
Yeah, it does. Whether or not the Fae can or cannot be honest is a big question in each story. I do like the one where they get a choice. I think that's interesting, right? Like you
Yeah,
can bleed on the rock and choose to not lie, or you cannot. It's up to them. So I thought that was really
which
interesting.
I think he mentions that like Malcolm, or maybe it mentions later that Malcolm did not choose to bleed on the rock, which
No,
makes
and he chose
sense.
to stay it with a curse, right? So like he
Yeah,
loved the power of the curse. He chose
right.
to keep the curse. It doesn't say like what age
Mm-mm.
Malcolm was when that happened. So I don't know if that was before or after Malcolm's 21st
Right.
birthday, I guess. But yeah, no, Malcolm is not in any way bound by any truths,
No.
right? But I mean, he can make bargains because he did technically make that bargain with Kingfisher,
Yeah, but
right?
does that come from his power of the curse?
Well, no, because anyone can make the bargain, right? Because like Kingfisher makes a bargain with Saris.
Yeah, that's true.
Like he makes the bargain like until when the coin touches the ground, and then he just
Right.
never lets the coin touch the ground.
Right.
So maybe he is. Maybe the curse came afterwards. Like after he turned 21. Maybe he is. Maybe he did take the oath and then received the power of the curse and was like, actually, I kind of like this.
Well, it just takes away their honor, right? So like other people don't see them as like special or high up or like important, but he's
Right.
evil anyways. So like he makes
That's
himself
true. No,
known in
that's
a
true.
different way. I don't know.
Mm, that is interesting. I don't know.
But she does mention, right? Because you said Saris doesn't super believe it. She's kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
eh. But she does say that Kingfisher knew that they needed weapons to win, and yet he still made the oath with her, or the bargain, that she could go home after she makes all the relics for every single person.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Lorreth is like, what? But then at the same time, he says, don't doubt his oath.
Yeah, like if he made that for you,
Right.
then he's gonna stick to his word.
Yeah.
So my question is, why do we think he was shocked? Do we think it's because she's the only alchemist, right? And then she would be gone? Or do we think Lorreth can smell like both of them on her from earlier and is like, oh, like that's weird. You guys are together, but he's going to let you go? Or do we think it's because it was the alchemist thing only?
I think it is because she doesn't understand a lot of her power, right? Or like what she is. But
Mm-hmm.
then he's like, well, you can't go home till you make a relic for every single person in the army. Like that's a lot of people. That's a lot of time, and she also has no idea what she's doing. So to me,
Mm-hmm.
I read it as like he was shocked that he would make a bargain like that, being like, you can't go home until you do this. And that being
But
like
does Lorreth
unreasonable to him.
know? Does Lorreth know that she has no idea what she's doing? Like, how much does Lorreth actually know at this point in time?
Well, I mean, he was just there for that whole conversation with Danya when Ren's like, yeah, here's all this history. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's true.
I just feel like that's a big bargain for him to make,
Mm-hmm. It is a big bargain.
for her to not know at all what she's doing, and for him to know there's only a year before they all die.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, like, is she actually gonna go home? I mean, obviously we know how it ends, but like, at this point, when
Mm-hmm.
she knows nothing, is that too big of a expectation?
Right.
I don't know.
Hmm. That's some food for thought. She does also ask about the teeth again, which always makes me laugh. And
Why?
we did talk about
She's
this
like
in a couple episodes
obsessed with
before.
them.
Well, yeah, he scratched her, bit her. And so Laura gets super uncomfortable. And so we did in the previous episodes, like kind of touch in what this was because there was some like earlier conversation about it. But this is the actual chapter where Lorreth like really gets into it. And he
Yeah,
obviously needs many more drinks to talk about this because it's super, super taboo. It's like worse than taboo.
yeah,
It's, as he says, scandalous. He's like, it's worse than taboo. It's scandalous. And so when you drink the blood, if you go too far, then you could be like become addicted. Things happen. But it like basically brings you both to euphoria, which I also think is pretty cool. So my
right.
question is, do we think that if a Fae drinks too much or goes too far, that the other Fae just dies? Like, do they bleed out or does something else happen? Like, they're not cursed anymore, so they can't change anybody, right? Like, they're not the princes, so they can't like turn someone into a feeder. So, like, what happens? Do they just literally drain that Fae of blood and that Fae passes away?
That's what I
Or,
assumed, only because I think of it like Twilight. Like, like this is gonna sound so stupid. You know how like Jasper is like a new vampire? And so he's still learning how to like control his appetite to only animals. So like if he had to do, or like Edward, right? When he has to bite Bella to like get the venom out, and then they're like,
Mhm.
Edward, stop. Edward, stop. Like, stop drinking her blood. You're gonna kill her. Like, that's what I imagine. Is that if they drink too much, they're just not gonna stop and then they're just gonna kill him.
Okay.
I don't know.
Hmm. My
I had
thought
flashes
also
of
was
Twilight.
possibly it's been a long time since I watched Twilight. Like
Well,
a
they're
really
all
long
on
time.
Netflix again, so if you want to rewatch them, I already have.
Yeah. I am pausing on TV, not for my health or anything like that. I recently discovered that Fortnite is a game.
Oh, I forgot you were playing Fortnite all the
And
time.
I'm playing it. I'm playing with my friends online. I like
Yeah,
it.
my hobby is
I don't
still
play solo
TV.
though because I die immediately. Yeah, I'm not good at first person shooter games, but I do get these really cool outfits and I get to drive the cars in there. And so my friends who are good at these games do all the like pew pew pew, right? And so I run around the cars and run people over.
Right.
So when we end the game, it's like my husband's like, I got 16 kills and 4 assists, and my cat's like, I got 24 kills or whatever. And I'm like, I got 4 assists and 1 kill. Did so good.
Meanwhile, I'm just
Drove the car.
rewatching all old TV shows or movies and watching. I'm like turning into my mother. My mom loves to watch documentaries. like
Oh,
any and all documentaries now. Like they're not just crime
okay.
ones anymore. But we like went through
Broadening her horizon.
Netflix. Yeah, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime the other day, and she's watched like almost all of them. She just like turns them on, and it's like her background noise, but she's like, "What? It's wild." But I'm getting to that. I just turn on things I haven't seen, and I'm like, "Oh, now I've seen it."
There you go. Now
I
you've
don't
seen
know.
it. That's
I don't
funny.
know.
I don't know. I think going back to it, I think that because he's like they can become like addicted. Maybe if they drink too much, then they start needing to go after others, non-consensual, to like reach that
What do
euphoric
you
high.
mean? Oh,
So like
I
two
see what you
fae
mean.
are together, like one drinks from the other, right? And then
Yeah,
like if they don't stop themselves, like they will get too high. You know what I mean? Like too much, and then they have to go after other fae. Or
maybe.
I mean, I feel like that's the second lot. Like the I like the first one, like where it's like that person's probably or that fae's just probably gonna die. But I do think that it's an interesting theory of what happens. I would like to see in the second book. This is probably really bad. I would like to see the situation play out.
This
Maybe
situation?
like some super side characters. They're like, oh, so and so did the taboo thing. They drink too much and they died.
Or
Or
now there's just this Fae on a rampage.
there's this fae, it drank from the other fae, now it's running around biting people.
I don't know.
Kingfisher's like, hold on, babe, I'll be back. I gotta go tame this fae that bit somebody.
I don't know.
Straight to jail.
Done.
Goodbye.
Oh
Straight to
my
jail.
gosh.
Oh, that's funny. And
Oh,
then so yeah, Lorreth does say though that they don't need it to survive. Like it's fully a sex thing, right?
right.
And so he's like, if you want to know more about this, you're going to need to ask about this like somewhere else, right? To
Hmm.
someone who may be inquiring about this. And
Right.
then I remind that they can like they can smell each other, like they can smell the people on them, right? So she said
Hmm.
that she showered, but she was already educated on like the fire burning the scent away. Did she forget? Did she stand in front of a fire earlier? Like, and I also wondered in the war tent why they couldn't sense it, right? Because they were just together, like Saracen Kingfisher, and then eventually she made it to the war tent, right? And Renfis said it, and he did tell her, he was like, go stand by the fire. Did she do that? Did she do it fast enough? Because I feel like if she didn't, or if it wasn't on her anymore, or I feel like if it was on her, Danya for sure would have thrown that in his face. Do you know what I
Maybe.
mean?
Yeah.
Like if they still smelled like each other and Danya smelt it in that war tent, I think she would have been like, hello, and you're sleeping with her, right? So
Right.
that makes me think like maybe she got to the fire quick enough and burnt it off. So I don't know if Lorreth can smell Kingfisher on her.
Right. Because she says, or she like worries in her head that he can smell it. Like
Right.
now that she's like, oh, this is kind of a weird topic. I bet he can
Mm-hmm.
smell
Yeah.
that. But also, I feel like this is kind of something that's not super consistent throughout the book. You know, like,
Yes, I also agree. Like
yeah,
sometimes you
like,
can, sometimes you can't.
right. Or it's like sometimes it's forgotten about, or, and then like sometimes it's mentioned at like the worst times to like keep the story going. But like, what
Mm-hmm.
about all the other times? Like you're saying, like with Danya and stuff, like, how do we know?
What I'm saying is I wonder if she stood by a fire like in the war tent,
Right,
right? And it just the scent burned off of her.
right. But
I don't know. Is there a fire in the war tent? It's a magic tent. I don't know. I don't
I
remember.
don't know. I
There's
don't
probably
know.
rugs in there.
Probably.
They got lots of rugs all over these war tents. So the topic finally switches and they're like,
Mhm.
she's asking about like Lorreth's past and where he came from and what's happening. So he was a traveling singer, and he met Kingfisher on the road in a ditch, and he was almost dead. He was attacked by vampires. He was struck by feeders. The rest of the Lupo Aurelia and Kingfisher found him, and they were like, "You just put him out of his misery," right? But Kingfisher ignored them and carried them to Kalish himself. The healers were not optimistic, and they said that they would bury him under a tree when he dies. And Kingfisher ignored them as well and made Lorreth his brother, giving a piece of his soul to him. It's an ancient technique that Kingfisher's father taught him to save someone important. However, he saved a stranger instead, saving Lorreth. He offered Lorreth a place with the wolves, or he'd leave when he was better, and Lorreth decided to stay. He trained hard, he ate a lot, he got a lot bigger and a lot taller, and he was ready to kill over at the war camp. It took him 9 days to cross the Omnimaran Mountains to the war camp from Kalish. And Saris is like, holy cow, like I remember hearing about this. Only like suicidal Fae would cross those mountains, but Lorreth did it, right? So he like changed as a person and he joined the Lupo Proelia. And so she also asked like, okay, well, what does that mean to have like a piece of your soul? And he explained that if he dies, if Lorreth dies, his soul just goes back to Kingfisher and Kingfisher lives on the rest of his days, right? But if if Kingfisher dies first, then Kingfisher is basically stuck in limbo because a chunk of his soul is still with Lorreth. So I imagined this as like a little Danny Phantom running around.
Yeah.
Right? So if Kingfisher dies, Kingfisher's like little Danny Phantom scooting through the halls while Lorreth is like doing his thing. However, he does not have to be a Danny Phantom for very long because Lorreth states that if Kingfisher dies first, Lauren plans to go very quickly afterwards with whatever means necessary because he does not want Kingfisher to live or not live that way, right?
Yeah.
He did know that it's happened before. Sorsha, the queen of Alissa and Fae, her mother saved her life, and 180 years later, her mother dies. Sorsha takes power, drinks elixirs, and vampire blood to keep her young. She surrounds herself with males who would die to keep her. She also wants to live forever. So over 3,000 years pass, and she doesn't look a day over 30, but her mother is chained to her, forced to see the world, unable to interact or move on. So that's a very interesting story, and I think it had a lot of details to it. It doesn't tell us like whether or not like Sorsha and the mother had an agreement, like, hey, like I saved you, like live for this long and then go on. It does, and it it tells us like Sorsha found all these things and wanted to keep it, but I wonder if there's more to that story. And I also wonder if we're gonna meet Sorsha in book 2. She comes up for just a quick second and then we move on. But I wonder if that will happen. And I wonder what the backstory to that is.
Yeah. I feel like we meet a lot of like Fae from the past or like just from history, but we don't learn about a lot of them in this book. So I feel like maybe each of them will make some kind of appearance throughout the series. Hopefully.
That's what I'm hoping too.
That it's not just like,
I hope they're
there's
not
this
all
one,
red
this one, and
herrings.
this one, and this one, and this one, and then they should never talk about it again.
Yeah. Like, what about that Fae from 3 books ago?
Yeah.
No, I'm hoping that she's like setting the scene for future books and talking about other Fae, like full circle moments. And so that wraps up chapter 24. So that was a beautiful chapter. It did give us a lot of information. We jump right into chapter 25 with Ballard.
Ugh.
So Kingfisher takes Saris. Is this your favorite chapter?
I love this chapter.
Oh,
it's one of my favorites. It leads
sigh.
into, I think, these next two, I just love them. I love the story.
I love that. Yes. Amazing. Let's get into it. All right. Chapter 25, Kass's favorite chapter, Ballard. We're here. So Kingfisher takes Saris back to Kalish, but leaves her alone for the night. She wakes up the next day with Onyx kissing her, licking her little face. And Kingfisher does not show up at all that day. So she gets to like wander around, check out the palace there, but she doesn't feel at home. And she felt Kingfisher shouldn't be there either, as if it was a home made for families. She does go to bed that night, and the next day eventually shows up. So she does sleep all night. Kingfisher doesn't show again. And this time she's like agitated. She's pissed, right? She's so mad that the fire sprites stop visiting her. Even Onyx leaves.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna go
She's like,
outside and have fun by myself. You're kind of mean.
right. So like the fox that is more a fox is like, girl, you're wild. I'm out. And the fire sprites are like, we can't handle this. Those poor
They just
fire
stop
sprites are already stressed.
they
They need
stop
a break.
checking on her. They're like, I can't.
You know, that's for the best. I'm sure that she is over it, right? But like you finally get your first like moment with this man. Things go completely awry.
Mhm.
You blow up a sword and then you're literally left alone for multiple days.
Yeah.
I get it. I would also be super pissed, right? So Kingfisher finally shows up. He like knocks on the door and walks in anyways. Whatever. And he sees that Ceres is wearing his shirt. He's like, that's a little bit too big for you, right? And it's a dark green shirt, which this is not the first time we've heard of said dark green shirt. So he does not always wear black. So he does have
Mm-mm.
either a couple pieces of green clothing, or maybe that's the same one. I don't think it's the same one. I think it would have said it's the same one. So he might have a couple dark green pieces of clothing.
Right.
Um, but she notes that he looks pale with bruises under his eyes. He says that a pack of feeders were moving by the border, but the army flashing at the river made them run. So, like,
So,
he was, like, out fighting stuff. And he says that he's going to see Telena, which, again, Telena
again.
is coming up. Ceres is very jealous. She tries to hide it, but he mentions something like, I'll be back to Gate tonight. Like, I'm taking you somewhere, right? So he's going to
Mhm.
go see Telena. This poor girl. Like, can you imagine walking away and her being like, oh my God, Telena again? Are you freaking kidding me? So it's just so silly. So he finally comes back. He seems a little bit better, right?
Mhm.
He offers her a canvas bag and tells her to bring Onyx if it makes her feel better. 'Cause she's like, where are we going? He's like, just bring the fox. It's fine. So when they step out of the portal, there's music, there's twinkling lights, and a great smell of food. And were informed that they are in Ballard.
Mhm.
And they're in Ballard. They're celebrating the longest night of the year. And he used to visit as a kid. But he just needed to collect something, so that's why they're there. But he's like, hey, I want to eat some food. It's been 120 years. Like, there's high fae, there's lesser fae, pixies. The pixies are showering people in flowers. It all seemed like a really good moment and a good celebration. And they, like, no one really minded anybody's presence. Like, everyone's just chilling, right?
Yeah, they're all
So
getting
eventually they
along.
make, yeah, they're all getting along really well. Like, no one's like, Kingfisher, Kingfisher,
Mhm.
Kingfisher, right? Like in the pub, they're all like, Kingfisher. They're just like, what's up, bro? Hello, welcome. Uh, so they sit on a hill, and she realizes like everything is safe at this moment. So they spend some time. They're not worried about war or Malcolm or like rations or anything like that. And Ceres mentions that this moment is what she wants for Hayden, right? And
Mhm.
Kingfisher mentions that like he could still have this, right? He, with the job and the place that Carrion got him, like he could still have these moments. But Sarah's kind of is a little bit honest about Hayden. And she's like, I don't have any, like, she has no faith in Hayden, right? She's worried she won't be home to help him. And
Mhm.
Kingfisher's like, you'll make it home. Like, it's going to be okay. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I really hope that Hayden gets a redemption arc because I'm so sick of like having to hate on him so much. Um, Yeah, so Kingfisher's like, "Hey, like he's going to be fine." Right? And I agree. I think he is going to be fine. I think he's tougher than he looks. I think he's also survived in Sovarin for a while, right? And now he's doing his own thing. So
Okay.
this is the moment that Kingfisher decides that he's going to help her with the relics.
Mhm.
And then they kind of go back and forth a little bit about it, but she does note that he is not snarky right now. Like he's not sarcastic, like he seems genuine.
Mhm.
He seems like a little bit more relaxed. And this is also where we learn kind of what we mentioned earlier, like where the Fae turn full-grown adult at 21 because she asked how the aging works. So he says that the Fae kids are weak and vulnerable, but they're fully grown by 21 years. And then the aging process slows dramatically. So lots of monsters like to eat kids or younger adults. And then it says, then there's Malcolm. His hatred would wipe the world clean if he had free reign. So this is the first, like one of the first times as well that Kingfisher like brings up Malcolm and has thoughts about him that he
Right.
like portrays out loud,
Right.
which I thought was really interesting. She changes the subject pretty quickly over to some young girls that are like watching Kingfisher and giggling, and she calls him Lord of College. And Kingfisher becomes uncomfortable. And he's like, I'm not a lord. He's like, I haven't kept my people safe. And I left them for 110 years. Like, I failed them. I am Lord of nothing. And this is where she notes that the silver in his eye pulses. So again, we're getting to a moment where she's mentioning what the Quicksilver is doing in his eyes, because each time he feels different things or does different things, it moves differently or looks different or reacts differently. So it's pulsing at this moment. So Sarah's is like contemplating giving him some comfort in some way, but she's also worried, right? She's like, what if he rejects me? What if, and she's like, my heart cannot take that, which I think is fair, right? Like she's still pretty freaking embarrassed from their previous encounter, but she does work up
Right.
some courage. She's like getting to it. And then Kingfisher turns to her and says, why haven't you said anything?
This is one of my
Bro,
favorite conversations.
what? She's, oh, excuse me, sir, Lord of College. What do you, he's like, why haven't you said anything? Which tells me that in his little Kingfisher brain, he's like, is she going to say something?
Right.
I wonder if she's thinking about it. I hope she had a good time. No, it's probably really bad. When we should talk about it. like, like he's probably thinking about all these things.
Right. But when she says that, she's like, I was about to say something. I was just thinking. He literally is like, oh, not about that. I mean, about the other night. Which in my head, when I first read it, I was like, oh, he really wants her to like say something and like comfort him. And then he's like, no, about the other night when we were together. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
no, when it all went
that
to shit.
that's a male thing to say. That's a male thing.
See, and I thought it would be more of like a male thing to like never talk about it again. Like avoid it at
Mm,
all costs. Pretend it didn't
yeah,
happen.
I guess.
Like I feel like it would be like a female thing to be like, we should talk about the other night.
Yeah.
Like, let's communicate, right? So I thought it was surprising that he was like, why haven't you said anything about the other night? Right? So, and she was like, hey, like we talked about like it was a one-time thing, like it's fine, right? And she also reminds him that he said that he could hate her and still sleep with her. And she doesn't want to continue to throw herself at things that hurt her. So she left it and she didn't see the point.
hmm
So I thought that was sad that he reminded her.
Yeah, but I
What are
also,
your thoughts on this?
well, this is also the line that gets me is that part. But then she also says she didn't see the point as he wouldn't listen to her sit over tea and talk about how good they'd be together. So like she really likes him. She's like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
be with him. But she
Right.
also is like so sure that if she was like, we would be really good together, why are we not together? That he would just like blow her off completely. That's how
Mm-hmm.
she sees it. Which he probably would at this point,
Yeah.
right? Like at this point, I feel like he'd be like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't
Yeah. He does say,
understand.
he like snorts and he's like, he says that he doesn't hate her. And
Right,
then he's like, but there are things that you like, you don't understand. And in that moment
right.
is when they're interrupted
hmm
by an older woman. She's very excited to see Kingfisher. He's like, hi, Wendy. There's like big hugs going around, right? She's like, I made you biscuits. And she's this lady. She's like, I have made you biscuits every year for years and you never show up. This is the first moment that Kingfisher like truly laughs too. And
hmm
Saris mentions that it's her favorite sound. And if I could change one thing about the audiobook, is that I would put in the laugh.
I can see
I
that.
need Kingfisher to laugh. I want to also hear I want to hear the moments. I want to hear the sound. Where is
That's
it?
fair.
Why
Well,
can't I not have it?
I mean, technically, this is just an audio book. It's not the, what are they called?
I
The
know it's not
Avatar
the
ones that are
dramatized
like that.
version,
Yeah.
but can we type in some ha-has? Like, ha 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 ha.
Right?
Type it in. It's fine. Just one, like, just show him laughing. I don't know. If I could change one thing, that's what I would want. That's what I want.
That's fair. I think that's a fair
Either
thing.
way. I was like, I don't get to hear it, right? So she talks about how supplies are super expensive, and they're pretty slim pickings. So even they're slim pickings, she's still making these biscuits every year that nobody eats except for
Somehow.
Kingfisher, and he never shows up. And he's like, hey, like Wendy, I'll try to get the trade lines opened up for you. And she's like, oh, gross, I don't want those. Those traders are awful. And she's like, are you going to introduce me to this gal that you have here, right? And she's like, oh, I'm Saris Fane. And he goes, oh, a Sylvarin girl, okay. And then she says that she felt her come through the gates, right? So she felt like a buzz in the air, she says. And then she also like takes her in and like sniffs her and is like, more than just a companion. And Kingfisher's like, she's just a friend and a temporary one. She'll be going home soon. We have in our show, in these notes, we have very different opinions. Do you want to go first? What are your thoughts on Miss Wendy?
Oh, no. It's not about Miss Wendy.
Oh.
The all caps is Kingfisher's response.
Okay, so for the record for you guys, we have like the quotes in here and it's Kingfisher's like, hey, she's just a friend, a temporary one. It's just the words bitch in capital letters. I thought you were talking about Wendy. So I wrote a bunch of things about why Wendy is amazing. I was like, Wendy was really great. Grandma vibes.
No.
Okay. I just didn't think anyone would call I did not think anyone would call Sweet Baby Kingfisher bitch. So I did not in any world think that was to him.
That is such a rude thing to say after he just was
What?
like, why didn't we talk about it the other night? So obviously he cares. Then he's like, she's just a temporary friend. Sir.
Well, because she has said that she's going home every 2 minutes.
Sir.
She's like, I'm out of here. She is at this moment, she is a temporary friend.
No, that was a dig.
It was a dig, but it's not wrong.
That was true. No, because in this circumstance, right? Wendy's like, oh, more than just a companion. Like she knows they've been together, which takes me back to when she says, can Laura smell me at the bar? She hasn't showered. She hasn't stood. So obviously he could have smelled her.
So here was my question, right? Okay, so for Wendy, I 100% got grandma vibes, right? Little old Fae lady who calls it like it is.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is she like a seer of some sort, right? She felt a buzz in the air when Saris came through the portal. That's what she says. However, Saris and Kingfisher came through the portal at the same time.
Right.
So did she feel Saris or did she feel Kingfisher? And how did she know that she was a Sylvarin girl? There's lots of places that are not just Sylvarin, right?
Maybe.
Isn't there?
Part of
and
it
also,
makes me. So, okay, to the Sylvarin girl thing, right? When she first comes in, she's at the palace. Like with
Everlane? Like when she's healing? Yes,
and they have that big thing where she goes in and she talks, right? Like she's in front of all those people. In my mind, right, isn't he like the king? Like, isn't he
Are you talking about Kingfisher or like Belicon?
No, Belicon. Isn't he like the king of all the Fae?
In that area, yes.
Okay, so I, in my head, just feel like she probably heard the gossip or like through the grapevine of that happening, and she knows that there's a Sylvarin girl.
And she's like, "Oh, you're the Sylvarin girl."
Yeah,
like, I've heard about. Interesting.
That's
okay, that's a thought. Yeah.
I don't
Interesting. Know. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I guess I didn't have an answer to it. I was just like, that's interesting, right? And so she's like smelling her, and my question is Wendy just a normal old lady, or is she like some sort of seer? And is she smelling like Ceres and Kingfisher on each other, or does the mate bond give a smell
Mm, that's a good
that she
question.
like an old wise lady? Is she like, that's more than a companion, my friend? Like,
Right.
I can see this. And
Maybe.
then knows that Kingfisher is obviously like not wanting to talk about it, right? So she's like, okay, like, come along now, that's fine.
Right.
And also,
Maybe.
like, this lady has probably known Kingfisher since he was a child,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
for how comfortable they are together. And then she's like, I think she can sense a mate bond or smell the mate bond somehow, some way.
Maybe. Yeah. I
That's
can
my
see that.
guess.
I can see that.
And so she has like food for them. She's feeding them, right? They're drinking. They're having a great time. Ceres is making jokes at Kingfisher, like, good warrior never dulls his senses with a drink. So they're having fun, and I think it's good. They both need to relax, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a pixie comes up and tries to steal food off of Ceres's plate. She steals it back, and the pixie is
Mm-hmm.
screaming at her, tiny little
I
angry
love
thing.
this part. It
And
just makes me giggle.
Ceres just wants to make the food smaller for her. So as she's like, here, like, let me rip up these little pieces of food, Kingfisher leans back in his chair with a tiny hint of a smile. And she's like, are you about to smile, Kingfisher of the Aegean Gates? And he says, well, what if I am? And she mentions she's only seen it a handful of times and no one will believe her. And he smiles big and ruefully and he says, they'll believe you, little Osha. They've seen me smile plenty of times. He mentions smiling is hard lately, but it's getting easier because they know previous Kingfisher. They,
Right.
you know, they know Kingfisher before all of the things happened to him. So they have probably seen him run around for many years, smiling and laughing and giggling and learning and playing and doing all the things that he was doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good moment. That's a good line.
It makes me like think that like now he's like an emo boy, you know? He's
It's
like
not
going
just a
through his
phase,
he's going
Mom.
through his emo phase.
Oh my God. Yes. He's got
That's
like
what I see.
the
The
hair
black
across his
hair.
forehead,
Yeah.
the eyeliner. It's
Yeah.
not just a phase, Mom. It's my life. That's
Ugh.
hilarious. I'm here for it. That's so funny. Okay. So, in this moment, she does mention that the silver in his eye is going crazy,
Hmm.
right? It's like moving around, it's doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And then we hear the famous words, Annorath more, Annorath more, Annorath more. She said the voices are so loud, and Wendy like snaps her out of it. She's like, hey, girl, you okay? Like, come back to us. Are you all right?
Hmm.
Everyone's watching her at the whole camp, right? And she's like, are you okay? And Kingfisher's like, we had a lot to drink. Like, we're tired. The days are catching up with us. We need to go rest. Like, we're going to pack it up for the night. Wendy's like, okay, yeah, like, you got it, right? Um, so he takes her to a house
Hmm.
and says, those words you said, why did you say them? And she says, she's like, I said them out loud because she didn't know, right?
Right.
But I guess when they were there, she was like talking out loud, like, Annorath more, Annorath more. And he cuts her off and he's like, don't say that. Like, don't say that out loud. And she notices he looks scared, right? She mentions she heard it before when he made her hold the Quicksilver in her hand, like way back when, multiple
Hmm.
chapters ago. And she's like, she wants to know what it means. And he steps away from her and he's like, no, just don't say it. And he can't tell her. So this is the first time that Ceres sees Kingfisher actually show real fear. Like, he's legit terrified of these words.
Hmm.
At this point in the book, we don't know what it means, right?
Right.
But knowing that we've all finished said book, we understand now that he literally cannot tell us what it means because he is like in that bargain or that agreement with Malcolm in that area, right? So it is translated to release us. So when they eventually, multiple chapters down the road, go to like the area that all of the Fae are in that had to be burned by Kingfisher, that are in the stands, they're screaming Annorath more, which is basically release us. So Kingfisher has heard these words shouted at him for over 100 years. Bro's got trauma.
It's just
Can
crazy.
you imagine?
So, okay, so my question is, then can she hear that because she can hear the Quicksilver?
See,
Like,
and I had wondered.
could any alchemist hear that then? Or
I don't
is it
know.
just her?
And that is it. Yeah. And then my question is, why is the Quicksilver saying it? Right? She doesn't hear it like she hears it from the feeders like that are in the stands, right? When she goes
Yeah, but
Malcolm, they're all screaming like Annorath more, and now she's hearing it right here with the Quicksilver in
so
his eye, and then back when she's holding the Quicksilver in her hand, she hears it again. But then
right.
again, when she's holding her hand, is it the Quicksilver that's in her hand that's saying it, or is it the Quicksilver in Kingfisher's eye that's saying it? And
Well,
why
because
is the
he's
Quicksilver
touching
saying
her.
it?
He's touching her. Remember when he like holds her hand closed?
Right. But he
Maybe it's
wasn't
coming
touching her
from
in this
him.
moment.
That's true. But she saw it going crazy in his eye, and she's starting to become more in tune with the Quicksilver.
She is.
So
So do you
maybe
think
now it
back
can
then it
speak
wasn't
to
the Quicksilver
her.
she was holding?
Now that you say that, I think not.
Maybe it's been the
I'm
Quicksilver in
just,
his eye the whole time.
I'm
And then
trying.
why is it screaming release us if when she asks like, "Hey, can you get out of there? Like, can you go?" and it says no,
No.
like we're not leaving. So my question is why why? Why is it saying this to her all the time? We
Well,
know what it means now.
it also confuses me, or like, I feel like, I mean, because this all ties into the bonus chapters,
Mhm.
right? Because it talks about the feeders that were in the stands were the one that he had to burn down, or like the city that had to burn down right before he disappeared.
Yeah, so it does tell that in later on in chapter 39 where it's titled Annorath More is when we
Yeah,
hear a lot of like the real meaning behind it, like
right.
behind the words themselves.
But I'm trying to think. I don't know. Was there something with Quicksilver in that town that happened that they would be saying that, or is that just part of the like mind control thing that Malcolm has?
Part of me thinks it's just part of the mind control thing that Malcolm has, like you had just mentioned, but part of me thinks it's also the Quicksilver knew that that's what has been shouted at him for so long,
Right.
right? So is it saying it to is the Quicksilver, because we know that it fucks with him, right? We know that
Hmm.
it's mean to him. Is the Quicksilver saying it to just Kingfisher? And because Ceres is such a powerful alchemist, she can somehow come in tune with that. And so therefore she's hearing what it's saying to him.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah,
I don't know that
I don't know.
that would be my guess. That would be like the thing that I would think of is it's like it says it to him all the time. He's used to it, right? But he's not used to hearing it out loud, especially from another person.
Right.
So, which maybe is why he's like so upset about it. And it's like, hey, bro, Annorath more, Annorath more, Annorath more. Like, we're going to torture you because we feel like it because we're bored, right? I think that, again, my opinion is that the Quicksilver is very bored. It's very lonely. It's very selfish.
Well,
So
and
I
it's
think it
like a
taunts
hive
him all the
mind.
time.
It's
Right.
almost, yeah, which is a whole other thing of
So it's just
issues.
like,
Yeah,
that would be my
I don't know.
thought is that she's so in tune with him, maybe not knowing so, maybe subconsciously, like that it's projecting into her mind
Right.
and she's speaking it out loud.
Yeah.
That would be my thought.
Hmm.
Isn't that wild? So
Weird.
he brings her into the house through the forest. He takes her to a red door between the stores in the square, past a beautiful statue of a girl with long hair, and water at her feet, right? She realizes the statue looks like Everlane, but has Kingfisher's cheekbones. And then she realizes this is Kingfisher's mother. This is Adina of the Seven Towers, or the Lady of Kalish. She must be obviously super important to the people here. So he brings her into the house. He says, like, hey, it's cold. She knew that was an excuse, but she went in anyways. They head upstairs and all the furniture is covered in sheets. Everything is like closed down, right? Kingfisher closes the curtains and she's like looking around the house and she realizes it looks like their home, right? And there's a painting on the wall and she goes to like pull a sheet off of it and he stops her. And he's like, no, not today. He's not ready to see that kind of stuff. Right. He brought her to a very personal part of his life, a very personal part of his home. But I get why he would not want her to uncover like the paintings, like any paintings of his family.
Yeah.
I feel like that's fair. He leads her up to upstairs where there's 2 bedrooms, not the 1 bed trope. 2 beds.
Rip.
You never saw this coming. This was a plot twist we never saw. There's always just 1 bed at the inn.
It's okay.
No, but
we
there's
have
2
the
beds.
redemption next chapter.
We sure do have the redemption in the next chapter. But for this chapter, we have to sit down and have a little patience because there's 2 bedrooms and he tucks her into bed and she's like, hey, I forgot my bag. Like, I got to run back. And he like uses his shadows, conjures up this bag that she forgot and is like, good night, little Osha. Okay. If I could have magic powers, I want it to be that, because can you imagine? I forget so many things every day. If I could just be like, whoosh, there it is. Forgot my lunch. Whoosh, there it is. Forgot my water bottle. Whoosh, there it is. Forgot my phone. Oh my God. My life would be so much easier.
It's true.
I want these conjure powers. I don't need anything else. I just need shadow wheeling conjure powers. Thank you.
That's it.
That's all I need in life. Request submitted. Dear Santa.
Can you conjure things that you don't own though, too?
I mean, he doesn't own that bag. Right? That's not, he's seen the bag.
So you would never have to buy anything ever again. You could just
for
conjure
sure.
whatever you need.
Conjure it up.
That would be nice.
It's my dream. It's just been my dream for 30 seconds. I'm invested.
Oh my gosh.
And that is wrapping up chapter 25.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing pretty good. We're pretty far through this book. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Chapter 26 has a lot of information, but in total, it's a pretty short chapter compared to
it's not very
the
long.
last 2. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like it pulls you in. It's got a lot in there.
Yeah, it does. It does have quite a bit in it. So when we get in there, they're in the house for the night. They're sleeping, right? Saris wakes up to Kingfisher like screaming, right? They're screaming in the house. She runs out of the bedroom and she can hear him screaming like, stop, no. And she's like running through and Onyx runs past her, not away from said screaming, towards said screaming. So he's running to Kingfisher. She follows Onyx to get to him because she's like, I don't know where to go, right? So she goes in there. He's sweating. Eyes are open. He's like crying, seems locked in place. Like body is like locked, right? And he's screaming, go away. He's like, get out of here, go. And she's refusing. She's like, I'm going to help you. Like, I'm going to find help. And he's like, no. It's going to end in an hour or 2. Like, just go. And she's like, I'm not leaving. He's like, fine. Can you get me some water? Right? And he's like, get me some water and go back to bed. So she grabs him some water and she's like, I'm not leaving. Like, I'm not going back to bed while you're like doing whatever episode seizure weird thing this is that's going on with you. Right. And so Kingfisher's still laying there. He's struggling. Onyx is still with him. Right. One more receipt to add to my like Onyx is more than just a fox. Again, he's running to Kingfisher instead of away from the screaming. He knew who was screaming. Any other animal would have been like, absolutely not. I'm out. Right? And then Onyx lays with him afterwards. I still don't know what the real story is behind that fox, but I am so convinced that it is someone reincarnated in his life.
What if it's his mom?
I think it's his mom. I think
Yeah,
it's his mom. That's my guess. I think it is his mom reincarnated, or somehow her soul is stuck in this little fox's body or
right.
something. I don't know. Grandma that we never heard of. This fox is so important. I'm 100% convinced of it, because any other animal would have done something different, right? And Onyx is not just loyal to Cirrus, it also loves Kingfisher.
Right.
So I don't know. Anyways, he can't move his body, and she decides to stay with him and help him, even though he's like insisting she needs to leave, right? So she comes behind him. She's like propping his head up. She's helping him drink the glass of water, and he's getting better, right? And he again is like, just go. And she's like, no, I'm not leaving, right? And so she can see the silver pulsing in his eye. So again, we note what the silver is doing in this moment.
Hmm.
And he's like, I'm gonna force you to leave. I'm gonna force you to go. And she's like, okay, bro, if you use that oath against me one more time, like, I'm gonna be really upset. So this it was funny in this moment, because I love that she took the moment when he was in a like a delirious, struggling state, and is like, you're never gonna use that fucking oath against me again. Got it? Like, do you understand me? And he's like, yeah, I got it. Honestly, he should. I think he was done using that oath a long time ago, right? He did mention that he only is going to use that oath when she was in danger.
Right.
So I think he was just like, I'm going to make you leave if you don't go. And she's like, good try.
Yeah.
Good luck. Right. So he finally accepts it. She stays. It continues on for like 4 hours. So way longer than he mentioned it would be. He was like delirious for a part of it. He's like being thrown around when the waves would happen. And the entire time she can hear Annorath more chanting in her head. So my question is, our guess is again from earlier conversation that we think it's the Quicksilver like fucking with him, right? Does it do this to him every night? And again, is this a choice for the Quicksilver, or can they not help it either? Why does it not happen during the day? Is it like a dream? Like, does Kingfisher lay down to go to sleep and he dreams of his trauma, and therefore the Quicksilver is now awoken and agitated? Like when he enters a REM state and has a dream about it, and then it's like, Annorath more. Because it said it's pulsed, like the Quicksilver was pulsing in his eye, and it covered almost his entire iris and only showed a little bit of green.
Right.
And she also mentions that she's like, this relic isn't even working. Like, what is the point of it? Right. And I also question, like, is there a time of day that the Quicksilver is stronger than other parts of the day? Like, why at night when he's sleeping? And again, does this happen every night? Like, that's probably why he has to go see Taylena, right? Like, we know he's going there to heal not just his external injuries, but like internal things as well.
Right.
So those are my
Well,
questions.
maybe when he's sleeping, because he's not actively fighting it, that's like
Hmm.
the one time when he's relaxing or his brain isn't thinking about it, maybe. Because, like, I
Right.
feel like during the day, he's probably fighting that thing in his head 24/7.
Hmm. Yes,
And so
I
at
would
night,
agree.
when he is vulnerable, it just comes through and then he's screwed.
Hmm. Yeah, that's very possible.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't think it would happen every night, though, because don't, do they sleep in the same room after they're together? They don't.
Mm-mm.
But I feel like
No, this is the
they do at
from
some
here
point.
on, they have, yes, I'm pretty sure,
And
but not before.
but this is the only time it happens. So maybe it just builds up.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Or maybe because of the episode at the dinner, like when they were
Right?
drinking and things like that, maybe because of that episode, it like triggered it.
Maybe. Or him being in his childhood home.
Yeah, maybe he was finally getting a good night of sleep for once,
Yeah.
and it was like,
I don't
bet.
know.
It's like a newborn baby sleeping. Not anymore. Just kidding. Be awake. Oh my god. And so he's finally starting to feel a little bit better. Saris is giving him basically like a massage on his muscles, like in his shoulders, trying to just calm him down, right? And she mentions that his tattoos start to move again, and they slowly climb onto her body in the shapes of like runes. This the first time she got a tattoo, they were like doing it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
she got a bird on her chest. It was the very first one. This time they're not doing anything crazy. Like she's just consoling him and comforting him. And so was it the deep connection between the two that made the mate bond more solid? Were the tattoos waiting to go on there beforehand? It just wanted to wait till like he touched her? Like why in this moment?
Well, we find out later on, like, isn't it Telena that explains to her?
Yes. Mhm.
Right. So I would assume it's because right now they're having a connection, like a
Mhm.
deep connection, like something important is happening between them. And that's why the tattoos are moving on to her.
And his guard is down.
Right.
Yeah, that was my thought as well.
Yeah. That's what I think. It's always like when something big is happening
Mhm.
emotionally between them.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. They do get into some serious conversation too because Kingfisher's like, I want to hear more about your life. Like, I want to hear what's going on. And I don't want, like, she's like, I don't have any good memories. And he's like, that's cool. Like, I want real stuff. Right. So she talks about her father. He died when she was 2. Hayden wasn't born yet. He died in a sand dune where he was working. Her mom, Iris, had to end up like selling her body to get food and water and money. And she worked at the House of Kala.
hmm
uh, During this, like Madras, a lot of Madras men were local customers of hers. So she saw them all the time. And then this is where Elroy kind of came into her life. She did mention that Elroy loves her or
hmm
like loved her mom, right? But never tried to make a move. And so they would work together to create, like build the weapons, like Elroy would build the weapons. And then Iris would take them and pass them on and sell them, things like that. She gave some to the ladies at the House of Kala to help protect themselves, like very small daggers. She
hmm
also mentions that there's like underground supply chains, things like that they were a part of. So essentially they were like kind of rebels, right? So they were
And
really
they
in it.
they trained Saris to do that as well, or
Yes.
to become a runner for them as she gets older.
Yeah, and like
So,
men would drop things off in the middle of the night and like rebels would be up in their attic for like a month or so. So she was a part of it as well, right? Hayden was too young, so he wasn't a part of any of that kind of stuff. And so with her mom, she went to work one day and she forgot her ration of water. So Sarah chased after her with the water so that way she wasn't thirsty for the day. And that's where she found her mom, like in the square. And the guards, because her mom had stopped servicing them because she didn't want to do that kind of stuff anymore, they got upset and
well,
they found 2 small knives on her.
it was servicing at her house.
Yeah, she was doing it like after
Yes.
hours,
And
essentially.
they showed up and she was like, I'm not doing it at the house anymore. I'll meet you at Kala. And they were mad
Hmm.
about it. They were like,
Right. Their egos.
excuse me? So yeah. Which,
Yeah, real shitty.
uh-huh.
And so they find 2 small knives on her, which the punishment for having a weapon on you in that area is death. And so, like, there's no trial, no nothing, right? So they kill her and they slit her throat and they left her face down in the sand and they all like peed on her body. Like, it was really graphic. So Saris got Elroy to help move her body. And when they return, the neighbors are like spitting on her and a man tries to steal her clothes and he makes like really vulgar, he like says a bunch of really awful things, which that part she does not tell Kingfisher. And I think that was a good choice
Well,
because
because, oh, go ahead.
mhm.
You go
No,
first.
no, you so I was gonna well, I think we probably will say the same thing. I think it
Probably.
was a good choice not to tell him that. That's a lot for her to say, but also, like, it's a really sad story as is, and I don't
Mhm.
think she wanted to upset him too
Well,
much.
even with like some of the small things that she has said with like telling the story, like in one of them when she says that her mother introduced her to men, he flinches.
Right, because he assumes.
Yes, but she's like, no, no, like
Mhm.
not the men that my mom
Yeah.
was working for, like the underground ring that taught me how to like survive, like
Yeah.
and make money. So yeah, I feel like that was a safe option for her that
Yeah, I think
he
she
probably
knew,
would have
like,
been
that would
like,
just upset him more.
mm-hmm,
I agree as well. Yeah. And so she also kind of gives us, we get a little bit more of a backstory on Hayden as well. So Hayden uh, began growing up, and everyone in the third told him his mother was selling herself, right? So Hayden grew up only knowing really bad stories about his mom, right? Except for the ones that he knew from Saris and Elroy.
Right.
They didn't ever live with Elroy. Like, Elroy could have raised them, but they didn't want any connection to him as far as the weapons, because then it would have gotten him in trouble. And so during this like really vulnerable moment, Kingfisher rolls over and asks her to come lay with him. He wraps his arms around her, rests his hands on her stomach, and his heartbeat was steady in this moment. And he says, "My mother was killed too. We have that in common, little Osha." And that is the end of the chapter.
I do want to note though, just something that like was big to me with that story.
Mm-hmm.
I think we skipped over it right at the end. Um, but after they get rid of her mom's body, when they come back, their home, like that she grew up in and was living in,
Mm-hmm.
was already boarded up. Like the day after they go and burn her mom's body, they come back.
Yeah,
Her
for
house
because
is
the
boarded
quarantine
up.
started.
Yeah,
Hers
and
was the first one.
Madra quarantines their house first. So, like you said, they never really stayed with Elroy, but she just like they just found places to stay, like
Mm-hmm.
on their own after
Yep.
that the whole time. Which it seems like that is similar for Kingfisher too, right? Like his mom died
Mm-hmm.
after that and Belicon didn't want him.
Right. So
Like
he
he
was just like
doesn't
on
feel
his
like
own,
he
like,
has anything. Yeah, he just also felt
right.
the same.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah. I know, it's so that's so sad. But I
But
think
yeah.
it was a good way for them to like connect, and I'm glad that she's opening up to him.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
thought that was a good moment. And that's where we wrap it up at the end of chapter 6. We're leaving on a super sad note.
Yeah. I love these
It's
chapters though.
necessary though. What a good sesh. What a good couple of chapters.
Yeah, they're some of my
Things are
favorite
going
for
to start
sure.
amping up from here on out. So things are about to start getting crazy.
Yeah,
I hope you guys are ready.
that's for sure.
Can't get enough of the Goodish Girls? Follow us on social media for sneak peeks at our upcoming episodes and bonus content.